The most recent Planet of the Apes trilogy is a near perfect movie trilogy, especially the latter two films directed to perfection by Matt Reeves, who crafted not one but two blockbuster films that are just as entertaining as they are thoughtful. If we're being honest, the worst thing I can say about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes is their names, which definitely should have been flipped. I mean, Dawn definitely seems more like a war, and War for the Planet of the Apes barely felt like a war, which might have been the reason it grossed over 200 million less than its predecessor. With that said, the idea of more Apes films remained exciting, with the biggest hindrance being that Matt Reeves is off to Gotham right now, sporting a mustache that makes him look like Commissioner Gordon, which means you're not getting him back. Yeah, there are still a lot of great names in Hollywood who you could get to direct another Apes film. Who's it gonna be? Could we get a family-friendly Apes film from Paul King? Alright, maybe not quite the right fit. Could they entice Christopher Nolan into directing an Apes film? Probably not. He's making a killing directing original films. Could Wes Anderson make a pivot into blockbuster directing? Maybe a little too quirky. How about Greta Gerwig? She's not available. Oh, what's that? They've found a director for the next Apes franchise? Let's see who it is. How about Wes Ball, the ultimate journeyman who directed the mediocre Maze Runner films? I'm not gonna lie, that's quite the downgrade, and the trailers did nothing to alleviate my fears that this film will be a drastic step down from the previous trilogy. Which, surprise surprise, it absolutely is. Had this been the first installment in a long gestating franchise from 20th Century Studios, I would undoubtedly still be underwhelmed, but considering the brilliance of the past three films that preceded this, I can't help but feel utterly disappointed. If War for the Planet of the Apes was a well-cooked medium rare steak, this movie is at worst the Burger King version, and at best, a decently made forgettable pasta. That's only in culinary terms, but in cinema terms, I think it's much easier to do away with the metaphors and describe this film as a boring, agonizingly slow film, which does just about everything worse than its predecessors. The movie is 2 hours and 25 minutes long, which isn't an issue in and of itself, as I think good pacing can make a 3-hour movie feel like 2, and bad pacing can make a 90-minute movie feel like 2 hours. This is a 2 hour and 25-minute movie that feels like it has the same runtime as The Irishman, which funnily enough feels shorter than this movie. Though the movie eventually picks up and gets going in its latter stages, the first hour of the film has too many scenes of people walking and talking. If you play a lot of video games, the first hour of this film is comparable to a mandatory tutorial stage minus the interactive elements. Like, you're just kinda watching a let's play of a walking simulator. It doesn't help that the visuals underwhelm in more ways than one. Not only are the locations in the film drab and repetitive, with characters walking through one grassy forest, and then another grassy forest, and then another grassy forest, and another. Unfortunately, Wes Ball just doesn't have the sauce that Matt Reeves does. Nothing hits like this shot or that shot in the recent trilogy, but even if we don't take it on an individual shot level and instead look at the moment-to-moment visual aesthetic of the film, this looks far more visually flat than what Matt Reeves did. Reeves has a talent for creating worlds that feel incredibly lived in, which he used to bring a sense of grit and roughness to this world, which has been traded out for a Marvel Cinematic Universe type polish. Save for the climax, the set pieces are pretty forgettable and don't even last long enough to be fleshed out in distinct and impactful ways. On the topic of things that aren't as good here as they were there, I didn't care for any of the characters, but especially the humans. There aren't an awful lot of them, but one of the two human characters are portrayed by Freya Allen, who spends a bulk of the movie not talking, which is quite an issue. Then she starts talking and that becomes an issue. It's clear she has a lot of room to grow as an actress, and I think casting such an inexperienced actor as a surrogate human character in a major blockbuster film was quite a mistake. The movie takes some big emotional swings, which, look, I respect whenever a blockbuster swings for the fences to tell a meaningful story, yet their efforts feel a little too effortful and paint by numbers. Like Wes Ball reached into a bag of Hollywood tricks in an attempt to emulate emotion, whether it's a character sharing a big proclamation of their emotional state, or someone standing in front of their loved one's grave making big declarations about what they're about to do. Which can be decent moments of your movie, but your movie can't entirely hinge on them. I mean, if you want to see what genuinely powerful storytelling can be in a blockbuster film, just look at that final scene between Caesar, played by Andy Serkis, and the Colonel, played by Woody Harrelson in War for the Planet of the Apes. It is an emotionally riveting moment in which not a single word is said, yet it works better than anything in this movie. I think it's clear by now just how disappointed I was in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. God, these titles are getting ridiculously long. But it's important to remember that the previous Apes trilogy started with Rise, which, while a great film, is undoubtedly the weakest of the trilogy. He's hoping that this new Planet of the Apes trilogy will follow a similar trajectory, preferably with a new director at the helm. Seriously, 20th Century, swing for the stars and hire someone who can genuinely make this franchise theirs, who can make it feel fresh in the same way Matt Reeves did. Don't stick with the guy who directed Maze Runner, because he feels less like an auteur with a distinct voice to add to the conversation, and more like someone doing a middling Matt Reeves impression. One with worse off characters, worse off pacing, worse off writing, and worse off visuals. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, if you've watched the movie, let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this review, please hit the like and subscribe button for more videos. I'm Cinemike, and I will see you next time.